Okay, well, let's go ahead. We'll talk about some of the trends that we saw last season and popular decks you may have seen, popular plays. So I was talking about my bounce house deck that I have, which is it's people bouncing everywhere. Silk's in there. I've got Werewolf by Night. I've got Spider-Man. These are all Cravens in this thing. So it's all related to just cards bouncing around and possibly getting bonuses. And it also also can be very chaotic.
Watch out for Fist Tower.
When Fist Tower, it's so funny because Fist Tower will drop and I'm like, no, I can figure out a way around this. Come on, Nico. Come on, Nico. I'm waiting for Nico to pop up. And then of course the spell never pops over to where I can change the location. But yeah, so as far as decks that I faced, this really felt like it was more spread out, or I wasn't seeing something constant all the time. Now, I'm going to say this, but I think that just recently somebody talked to a developer with Marvel Snap and asked them, hey, does the matchmaking change on specific things in regards to decks? And their response was a resounding like, no, it doesn't. So it's almost like they're trying to make you believe. Let's try that again. Their response is that this is definitely more random, other than just looking at your collection level. Let's put it that way. I do remember them saying they look at your collection level and then they base it off of that. So that's where the matchmaking comes in. But I've sat here and said so many times on this podcast that there's an algorithm. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be facing a bunch of destroy decks because I've got a destroy deck. Well, when bounce started happening, I did see my fair share more of bounce decks out there, but they weren't overwhelming like I had seen with previous decks. I wasn't always facing High Evolutionary. I wasn't always facing Destroy. I wasn't always facing a Galactus deck. So it seemed like it was more spread out, which I'm perfectly fine with. I did put a little note in here about Spider-Man and his nerf. A lot of cards got nerfed. My goodness.
And what did the Spider-Man's nerf was that he can't move unrevealed cards now?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't think that was necessary. I don't think that was exactly game breaking.
Yeah,
of course, as you know, in the realm of nerfs, that didn't even make my radar.
I did remember, I think some of the more successful things that I would have, especially against destroy decks, as soon as you saw Wolverine get laid out, if you had advantage, you knew what was coming next, or at least most likely Venom or Carnage is going to be popping up.
Yeah.
And so if there was some way for me to get Spider-Man out there and screw up their plan, which I had done plenty of times before, where I could grab an unrevealed card and drag it over to another lane and it kills something that it didn't completely expect it to kill, that would be fun. That was fun sometimes. But either way, it could still throw wrenches in there. I don't think it's horrible. It's definitely not something that broke my deck, but I'm more cautious of where I'm laying Spider-Man now, because I want to make sure he grabs the revealed card and takes it somewhere. But yeah, I put down here, there was a streak of destroy, but it seems like I was facing a variety of decks. So anything that you had seen over for trends for the last season?
Nothing really stood out to me. I always see destroy decks, but I think that's just because destroy is strong, and I always see High Evolutionary because it's High Evolutionary and they made it better.
Yeah.
By nerfing another card in particular. But no, I didn't really. When Annihilus first hit, of course I saw a lot of that, but that's just natural because of the interest and excitement over the card. I did have success for a while. I went back to my move deck and added Werewolf by Night in there. So I had some success with it, tweaked Living Iron Slot a little, did okay with Annihilus, but the nerfed elephant in the room, and I don't even know, was this still last season? I may be getting into the current season, but was them making Luke Cage only work for the location where he's played.
Right.
Now, I will say that power as it was, even being able to undo reductions after they'd happened, like with Scorpion, was probably too good for a 2-cost card, and it was frankly too powerful for Luke Cage. However, Luke Cage was the best defense against High Evolutionary decks.
Yes.
And he's still useful. I've still got him in my Annihilus deck alongside Man-Thing. once you toss some crappy cards over there, why not add insult to injury?
Right.
But the fact that he doesn't protect across the board makes his hazmat partnership less appealing, which is a shame because of all the classic Luke Cage hazmat stories Marvel has given us over the years. He's still useful against the High Evolutionary. You just got to pick your spots with him more often. But I've said over and over, most any deck I make, Luke Cage is usually in there, and now Luke Cage is a card that I will consider putting in there. I dropped him out of Living Iron slot. I dropped him out of a couple others. He's just not. And like I said, I get it. He was probably too good for a 2 cost, and they did bump his power up a little. But you fixed everything but High Evolutionary, people.
Right. Exactly.
This has probably been discussed. I should Google it, but it has to be that High Evolutionary just doesn't work if he turns those cards' abilities on and off.
Right.
It has to be that in order for those abilities to work, they're part of it for the whole game. But there's still, broken record here, no downside to playing High Evolutionary.
No.
There's no downside to putting him in your deck, except that, well, technically, you don't even have to use him. So technically, I guess you only have 11 other cards to choose from, but several of them are going to be much, much better than they normally should be.
Yeah, yeah.
So if it can't be turned on and off, if Yonduing him or cabling him or anything like that doesn't stop it, if Weird World or District X doesn't stop it, then I've got another suggestion.
Okay.
Add to his ability Quicksilver's power. He's always in your hand at the start, so he takes up a slot. You don't even have to. It's the only card I can think of where you don't even have to draw it to get the advantage.
That's true.
Maybe, wait, did they change it with the Watcher so that now if Watcher's in your deck, you just automatically can see the location on the right?
Yeah, okay.
I think they did. Okay, so he's not the only one, but that's not that big an advantage.
No, it's not.
The Watcher's fun. It was more fun when he could see all the locations, but it's still not that big an advantage. So at the very least, make it so that when High Evolutionary is in your deck, you draw him in the first hand. So he at least takes up a slot in the cards you have available.
I agree.
At least try that.
I'd love to see that. I hate.
I don't know why it bothers me so much, because High Evolutionary is not an automatic win.
But he's frustrating, though. As soon as you start to see the glow on these cards, you're like, oh, geez, here we go. So most High Evolutionary decks are sometimes a script where you could just what's going to happen next. Oh, there went Abomination. Okay, now I've got to worry about this overpowered Hulk, and who has the advantage? Oh, I do. So I'm not going to be able to knock out this Hulk with the Shang-Chi that's sitting in my hand. So
I guess that's where you try Ghost again, but
yeah,
but Luke Cage he didn't take out Misty Knight and Hulk and stuff like that, but he did stop Thing and Cyclops, who to me are the biggest problems.
Yes.
Especially since Cyclops can do it over and over.
I've lost it. I've lost plenty of games where that last turn, Cyclops hits two people on that one lane and drops my power again. I was just like, all right. Yeah, man, I completely 100% agree with you here. I think this nerf to Luke Cage is a little extreme. So I'm hoping that they
maybe raise his cost.
Yeah, you could. Why not? Okay, fine. Now I got to pay.
This might be a little extreme, but he might be worth it at 6 points. So again, that also shows that 2 points was a little low. But I don't know. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But it just.
Well, 2 things. First off, I was using the Watcher the most I've ever used him since the nerf / buff, whatever it is, that he got when Tarnax 4 was going on. And I'll tell you why. I had him in there, and I would first location would pop up, and I would check the third location, and if it wasn't Tarnax 4 on either 2 of them, second location, if it wasn't Tarnax 4, retreat. I did not want to play any games without Tarnax 4. That might also be why, by the way, why you didn't see it very often. Yeah. I did. Might exactly be why. Because I think only featured locations, I think, are like 50-some%, or I can't remember what
they don't happen all the time.
No. The second thing I want to say is that, you know what I would love to see? We always talk about these team ups that we've seen all the time, Luke Cage and Hazmat. But what we need is there needs to be a mechanic, and maybe we'll get there at some point, where you can lay a card down, and if there's 2 specific characters that usually team in the comics, it activates some kind of ability, sort of like I wouldn't say like High Evolutionary. I don't know if you have to play the card, or if you just have them in 2 lanes, those 2 cards do something special. together. Yeah. So Power Man and Iron Fist, Cloak and Dagger. Specific team-ups would be great. Or you could do a whole Marvel
just give them each a +1 power.
Yeah.
They're in the same lane. Although, Power Man and Iron Fist, you'd have to be really careful about that. That's what I would do. I'd be like, haha, I've played Power Man right next to what the heck?
But yeah, that would be a neat ability to see, actually make the team-ups or characters that usually are seen in the comics together matter. All right, let's get into our unlocks here. We got about 10 minutes for our next things. Let's see if we can squeeze this in.
Doesn't look like either of us got as many as we have in the past.
No, we did not. So, okay, at the time when I was writing this was on December 7th, so a couple days ago. I had one spotlight key in my possession, and am I holding on to that dearly? Yes, I have got that in my possession. Currently at 8,243 on the collector level, and here is what I unlocked. Now, I did get a total of 5 new cards, so that's really nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
Do I play them a lot? No. It's a Dan Hip Wolverine.
Always good.
Yep. Max Grecki Deadpool, where he's running and the point of view is like you see basically underneath Deadpool's feet as he's running from something. I unlocked Mirage. So this right here has to be when I was trying to get Gladiator. So it was Mirage, and then it went to Loki, which that's the card I think I would probably have the most fun with out of these ones I unlocked. Mm-hmm. And Gladiator, which I used a little bit. X-23, which I haven't used at all yet, but I understand there's a lot of value to X-23, especially on the board with Wolverine. Those are 2 cards that never go away. They just don't. They will always be on the board no matter what. And then if you can kill them off,
unless Yondu gets them first. That's
right. Unless you can kill them off, or excuse me, if you kill them off, they go up or give you some type of a bonus. So that's pretty nice. I got a Pixel Wong.
Nice.
I got a Daken, Baby Thor, a Chris Anka Star-Lord, that's a neat looking Star-Lord. Clayton Crane Deadpool. It's the one that's been around for a little while where he's got the taco in his hand and he's kind of pointing at the viewer. And then I got a Max Grecki Black Knight, which
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, I think I got that out of a Spotlight cache, or not Spotlight cache, but I got it out of a cache, pretty sure. It's not the Grecki stuff that I'm usually used to. I think I've mentioned in the past, most of his cards are always something that looks like the point of view is from down looking up. Mm-hmm. And this is, you're just looking straight on at the Black Knight. He's dressed all in his gear, ready to go. And it's fairly decent. But that's it, man. That's 3, 6, 9, 10, 12 cards. 5 of which, I said, I'm not going to complain, 5 of which are brand new cards that I've never had in before. So, but yeah, I really did not do a whole lot of unlocks here. Your list is a little bit longer, though. So what'd you get?
Yeah, well, I'm at 93.55 right now, collector level. And I started off with a Luca Claretti morph, which, if I'm being honest, morph's a character I used a lot and then kind of forgot was in the game. I try to bring it back every once in a while, and I guess maybe that's just the whole Tarnax 5 thing that I shy away from the chaos and uncertainty. Let's see. So I got a Dan Hip Adam Warlock and Dan Hip Destroyer.
Oh, nice.
Which led me to try a deck that I simply had to call Hip to be Square. I had enough to make a deck. I did not have enough to make it work together very strategically, but for some reason, I kind of went on a little bit of a run with it.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I'm just going to do this for the heck of it, and then go back, and I'm like, but I keep winning. So I decided, I'm like, well, hey, I'm going to take a page out of Jesse's book and do 10 games with the Dan Hip deck and see how things go.
Oh.
It didn't go well.
Oh.
I quit after 5. I lost all of them, and it wasn't even close.
Oh, bummer.
I also did a pixel-only deck and put Pixel Agatha in charge of it, and I think I retreated after 1 hand and stopped that. I forget what it was. It was pretty bad.
No.
I was just like, nope, not happening. Okay, so then I tried to get Gladiator. I got Loki, who immediately went into I call it the Jurassic League deck, or my Collectosaur deck. And, he's great with the Collector. I understand why people use him so much, but I don't know. I was like, everybody uses Loki. So it the novelty kind of wore off and my ranking. So that's why. But yeah, then I got Mirage, the casual variant. Somewhere along the way, I got a Pixel Kazar.
Oh, okay.
Got 1,000 tokens trying to get Gladiator. Finally got Gladiator on the 4th try. Got a Pixel Falcon. Got 1 Spotlight key trying to get a Nihilus. Ended up with Dakin. Got the Nicola Sismus, however you say it, Scorpion.
Okay.
Got a
I've seen
Pixel
that
Polaris.
I've seen that one. Yeah, I was just looking at one a couple of days ago.
And I did try to work Dakin into multiple decks. But I think I've said before, the card just doesn't inspire me very much. But then I got a Dan Hip Dakin.
Oh, okay.
So got a Pixel Luke Cage.
All right. Yeah, that's cool, by the way. That Pixel Luke Cage is awesome because if you look at him, he's got 3 bullet holes on him and they're kind of smoking. And I think if you animate it, the smoke is kind of rolling off of him, which looks really cool.
Then I did get a Nihilus. Wound up with a Spider-Man 2099 by Dan Hip. Although the palms of his hands are red. Not sure what that's about. It's distracting, but otherwise it looks cool. And then I just to say I got the Peach Momoko Psylocke variant from Conquest.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, she was Peach. Now I never did look. I assume Peach Momoko is a girl.
Yeah, she's done a lot of stuff for Marvel, like kind of reimagining stuff, and I think it's like feudal Marvel characters in feudal Japan, magical settings and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think that
a lot of variant covers.
This season was kind of centered around her, wasn't she? Wasn't that one of the big things? Was a bunch of Peach Momoko variants at one point?
They had a shop takeover, so maybe we'll get an album with her.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, oh hey, a Dan Hip album, I'll fill that sucker up, no problem. I didn't know it was specific cards, almost none of which I have.
Yeah.
I saw some people online, and I'm complaining about it here, but it's like, well, whatever. I know I've got more than 12 Dan Hip variants.
The best reaction that I had seen to it was, of course, people were complaining about it online, but the best reaction that I saw to it was somebody was like, well, of course they didn't do a Pixel album the first go, because everybody would have had it filled up.
And I would have been happy.
Yes. Yeah, it is surprising. And we could take a few moments just to talk about this real quick. They've rolled out the new update. We have a couple new things that are going on with the game itself. Albums are one of them, where if you collect all 12 cards, right now they got what? There's a Jim Lee album, which just blows my mind. I really want to spend the money, the gold on getting those. There's the Jim Lee album, which there's a ton of Jim Lee variants that I've never seen. I have one. I might have 2. I think I have Colossus, and there's another Jim Lee that I have. What Jim Lee do I have? I can't remember. But regardless, I got the Jim Lee. Oh, I have a Jim Lee Cyclops, which is taken directly from the cover of a comic, which the Todd McFarlane's one is the same.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's that, and then there's a Venomized album.
Venomized Villains.
Venomized Villains. And then what's the third one? What did we just say? It was Dan Hip. Dan Hip.
Yeah. Which that's the only one I've hit a milestone in. I actually don't have any in the Jim Lee or Venomized Villains one. I love that they have the Jim Lee stuff, but here's my issue with the Jim Lee variants.
Okay.
They don't look much different than the regular cards.
Oh, yeah.
Like most of the regular cards look like they're variations on those Jim Lee. Okay, Rogue is at a slightly different angle, but it's almost the same position. The Colossus one always kind of do a double take. I'm like, wait, is that the variant or is that the Jim Lee?
Mm-hmm.
Jim Lee, it's awesome. But the Dan Hip one, I'd been saving my gold for either tokens or I really want the Mark Silvestri Iron Man. I've got an avatar of it, but not the variant card, or the classic Werewolf by Night. So I'd been resisting, and then I'm like, well, let's get one of these album things, and I can get a Dan Hip Cosmo avatar. So I got Claw, the Dan Hip Claw, which is cool, except then, like, the next day, the Dan Hip Onslaught was on there, and I didn't have enough gold to get it. I wanted the Dan Hip Onslaught. Dan Hip Claw was like, well, it looks cool.
I could have swore I had the Jim Lee Cyclops. He's not showing up in here. He's gray.
That's because you have the regular Cyclops card, and it looks pretty much the same.
No, there's no. I'm double checking this right now. And I swear to goodness, if that's the case, I'm going to be so mad. I swear I have this card. What is the deal? Get me back to my cards.
Oh, you know what? It doesn't actually look that much like it. I stand corrected. I don't know why I thought that, but the Rogue one. Come on.
Well, the only one I have apparently in that album's Colossus. So that's kind of unfortunate. What was the other thing that they did? The decks.
The deck building, which I tried once or twice. What was the one I sent you? The first time I tried it, I just needed one card for a deck, and I'm like, well, let's see what it does. Mm-hmm. Let's just try this out. I like the idea of having it, but I like to try to build my decks myself. I'm not very good at it, but I like it.
Well,
okay, yeah. Let's see. It was when I took Cage out of the Living Iron Slot deck, and I'm like, well, let's see what it suggests I replace him with, and it suggested MODOK. Which, aside from the fact that at this point I think maybe it's taunting me.
It's true.
Like, I don't understand. Maybe there's a strategic thing I'm missing, but MODOK works with that deck in no way. I was doing a variation of a destroy deck, and I had 3 or 4 slots open, and the ones it suggested fit with the other cards in it. But why MODOK?
Well, there's only going to be one answer as to the usefulness for that deck building, and that is the next podcast that we do. It's just going to be us doing a random deck.
How about this? We each pick our favorite card or variant.
Okay, all right.
We pick one card. We don't have to tell each other what it is until we start. And then we let it build the deck for us.
Build it around it, and then we battle.
And we take whatever it gives us, even if it gives us Agatha.
Oh man! If the deck builder does suggest Agatha at some point, what are you doing? You never know. You could be surprised and be like, why? Why have I never thought of that? But I really think the only strategy with Agatha is the one that you came up with, where you get her to discard herself. That's the only thing you can do. And
that only works if you know the other person's playing Agatha.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So, well, I think when I sent that message to you after it suggested MODOK, who might not be the worst fit for that deck, but who has synergy with none of those cards, I wonder if the autofill deck feature is the same algorithm as Ego and Agatha.
Right. Oh man. And yeah, we had a host of card changes, that's for sure. I think the biggest one that was out there was the whole America Chavez change, where we are now looking at, instead of her being the last card that you draw, 6 cost 9 power or 6 cost. So now she's a 2 cost 3 power card that just gives you +2 on the next card that you draw. So +2 power. What do you think here, man? There were a lot of people decrying that this was a horrible adjustment to a card. What's your feelings?
I'm more likely to use her now than I was, because I get the strategy of her being your last card, but I just always felt like there were more useful 6 cost cards, so I've put her in a few decks. She even was a quick replacement for Luke Cage in a couple of them. To me, it just feels weird because that card's been what it's been for a long time. The only change I can think of that was that drastic was when they changed Spider-Man. And the card that was earlier on, so you weren't that. I hadn't had Spider-Man that long when that happened, so I don't think it's horrible. I think it makes her more usable, but it's just like, it's even bigger than the Spider-Man one. I think it's the biggest shift I can remember.
Yeah, right. We got a major cut to power for sure.
Major reduction in cost. It completely changes how the card is used.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that's the same about it is the art on the card.
Or I should say her original ability that she had. I don't know if that was in line with the character or not. One of the people I think it was the devs that wrote this, said that the way that it's set up now is a little bit more in line with her power. Only America Chavez that I know is from what I watched in Multiverse of Madness. So I don't know much, obviously.
A lot about her. She's strong, she can fly, and she makes star-shaped portals.
All right, then.
And boosting powers, I guess she's usually been portrayed as a reliable friend and ally, maybe, but I don't know. That's about all I got.
Thanks a lot for joining us. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the next installment of Snap Material.